Welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD television. I'm Steve Lance. Kevin McCarthy is inching his way closer to holding the Speaker's gavel for the 118th Congress. This could be as early as tonight. He's won over most of the 20 members who've been opposing him all week, but there's still work to gain the last few votes needed. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports from Capitol Hill. So Melina, what's changed from yesterday with regard to those who are opposing or were opposing McCarthy?
So a couple of things have changed since last night. The most important, of course, being that Leader McCarthy has, for the first time all week, gained more votes than the Democrat nominee, Hakeem Jeffries. McCarthy has been stalling at about 200 votes all week, but during this first round of voting this morning, around 15 members who were opposing McCarthy initially supported him. And after that second round of voting, there was a similar result from that, and McCarthy came out with confidence that he will be the Speaker just hours from now. Here's a look.
We'll come back tonight, and I believe at that time we'll have the votes to finish this once and for all.
So how did we get here? Well, this has been an ongoing effort, hours of long negotiations between people who were helping McCarthy to negotiate and these 20 holdout votes who were opposing McCarthy because they wanted to adopt a number of rules changes. One of those being they wanted 72 hours to read bills. They also wanted to restore the motion to vacate back to its original status so that every single member can hold the Speaker accountable. They also wanted some rules changes in regards to budget, because one of the arguments from this group of 20 members was that they didn't believe that there were rules in place to adopt a sound budget. Now, after that first round of voting, the majority of those members who did flip their vote came out and told reporters exactly why they made this decision to now throw their support behind McCarthy.
People have witnessed for the first time in this town in probably 100 years, if not more, a deliberative process, a legitimate deliberative process.
But for too long, minority rights have been stepped over. Too few people are making too many decisions for the American people in ways that undermine the health and well-being of this institution, the country, and the American people. That has a chance to change today.
And even of those members who have continuously voted for Kevin McCarthy, some of them told me they actually support these rules changes that this group of 20 opposing members has been pushing for. Here's what one of them said earlier today.
But we had debate. You have to have debate. So I don't have a problem with the rules changes. I embrace many of them. The budgetary process changes, I support that. We have to rein in wasteful spending.
So, Melina, I have to ask, now that McCarthy has gained most of the support needed, what do you see next?
So as for what's next, well, there are still 6 Republicans who have who have not supported McCarthy during today's votes. And, that group of 15 who have now turned their support in favor of McCarthy, they're actually working with that group of 6 to help them change their minds and come to a consensus where they can elect McCarthy as Speaker tonight. We spoke with one of those members, Representative Ralph Norman, who's been involved in these negotiations all week. He's been opposed to McCarthy. He was one of those who flipped their votes today. Here's our exchange. Can you explain exactly how this framework has teeth? How are you guys going to make sure that McCarthy is abiding by everything you've laid out here?
First step we took was put it in writing. Words are cheap, and anything worth doing, particularly as it relates to the economy. Washington has a spending addiction, and we've got to change that. The debt situation of $30 trillion is not acceptable. And so what we did was put a number of things that would put us on the course for financial solvency. We cannot continue like we're going. And he went from not agreeing to any budget to agreeing to a 10-year budget.
What do you say to those Americans who support you but may not trust McCarthy?
Sure. Well, what is in the package is a motion to vacate. Ms. Pelosi had taken that out, and for your listeners, a motion to vacate is bring a motion on the floor to basically fire the Speaker. So if he's not doing the job, we've got that in place. He agreed to that, and really agreed. He went from not agreeing to it to having 5 members to having 1 now. Democrats
particularly would say that McCarthy is now caving to what they call the far right of the Republican Party, and that may be dangerous for how the House operates. How do you respond to them?
Well, caving to the far right is getting a bill 72 hours in advance, the far right. is having single subject bills and germaneness, the far right, is having amendments on the floor and being able to, when bills come up, offer amendments. I mean, that's not far right, that's common sense. And to my Democratic friends, the damage they've done to this country, the spending that they have done over the last 2 years, open borders, crime in the streets, all the above, they've wrecked this economy. So that's what we're going to try to correct. So I don't take the criticism. They can make it, but I know what we're doing, and I know what will get this country back on track.
What's next now with those, I think it was 6 members who are still opposing McCarthy's leadership? Are you guys working with them now, or is just you're leaving it to McCarthy to work with them? What is your plan now?
First thing I did after I came out for Mr. McCarthy is went up to him and said, "We're with you. How can I help you?" He said, "Can you talk to your other members who are never Kevin?" I said, "Sure." He will have the votes tonight. As you know, we're going back in at 10. When we finish voting, he will have the votes. And we can get back to business. We can form committees. We can have hearings. And we can get back to governing.
So right now, during this period that the House has adjourned, Ralph Norman is working with those members such as Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Bob Good, and others who have refused to support McCarthy so far, with hopes that when they do come back, and when they do, the House does come back at 10 p.m., that they will have enough votes to elect McCarthy. And so once we come back, we'll find out either they will adjourn again for the weekend, or McCarthy could again fall just shy of the votes needed, or he could, in fact, win the gavel in just a couple of hours. Steve, back to you.
Melina Weiskup, thank you for that. And Biden allocating presidential medals to election officials and police officers, calling them heroes. This, as today marks the 2-year anniversary of the January 6th Capitol breach. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more.
Marking the 2nd anniversary of the January 6th Capitol breach.
On January the 6th, our democracy was attacked.
President Biden holds a ceremony at the White House, honoring members of the Capitol Police who defended the building on that day.
You held the line that day, and what was on the line was our democracy.
For the first time in his presidency, Biden presents the Presidential Citizens Medals. Today, 12 individuals, including officers and election workers, were given the award.
America is a land of laws and not chaos, and history will remember your names.
Over the past 2 years, Biden has often used the events of January 6th to target what he calls MAGA Republicans. He also made it a central political theme ahead of the midterms.
Democracy is in the ballot for all of us.
The House January 6th committee, which is now disbanded, largely blamed former President Trump for inciting what happened on January 6th. The House Republicans released its own January 6th report in December, suggesting, quote, leadership and law enforcement failures within the U.S. Capitol left the complex vulnerable. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Some Americans who attended the protests on January 6th and who were arrested are still waiting for their cases to be heard. They've been held without bail for almost 2 years. One of those prisoners is Jake Lang, and he joined us earlier by phone from a maximum security federal penitentiary. Here's what he had to say. Jake Lang, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Steve, how's it going, brother? God bless.
Great to have you here with us, Jake. So, Jake, this is officially, I guess, 2 years now from January 6th, the Capitol breach. You've been incarcerated with no trial, what some might say zero due process. Where does everything stand with your case? Get us up to speed if you could.
Yeah, Steve, it's been over 720 days now. I've been a political prisoner in our own country, right here in America, without any trial. My trial, God forbid, I will be sitting in prison for 30 months this June 2023. I get my shot at justice. And it's been a hard-fought battle just to get here. Legally speaking, spiritually, God's been with me and all the Jan 6ers every step of the way. Our faith is what keeps us strong, and our convictions to defend American liberty, all the way to the death if need be, have brought us here, and we continue to rely and remain in our faith and with our resolve. So my legal battle is it's materializing. It's back and forth. We've filed so many different motions, and the government's fired back on them. They haven't been willing to give me bond yet. We're going for another bond motion so I can get home and prepare for trial, because I haven't really been able to review discovery, have any meaningful contact with my attorneys. Everything's being eavesdropped in and spied on, and the government's just trying to thwart and silence me every step of the way. It's despicable.
What happened that day specifically with you? Did you ever breach the Capitol yourself? Did you make your way into the Capitol?
No, I never got physically inside the Capitol. I was outside the Capitol defending my country and defending all the people's lives around me. And there was people literally being slaughtered in front of me. This poor 34-year-old woman, Roseanne Boylan, God rest her soul, she's a hero patriot who gave her full life, her full measure for this country. She died in my arms on the steps of the Capitol, and that's as far as I ever made it.
Your book, Patriot Prisoner, if you could tell us about what you wrote about.
Yeah, so this book that I've put together throughout these last 2 years is really just the entire January 6th story from the inside the prisons, from somebody who's actually there at the Capitol. I believe this is the first book put out by a January 6th political prisoner. It covers, the lead up to January 6th, my family background, who I am as an entrepreneur, as a New Yorker, as a man of God. And then it covers every gruesome detail of January 6th. And then from there, it talks about these last 24 months. I've been pushed around to 11 different prisons, the internal struggles of the legal battle, fighting against the largest force ever applied to American citizens. Every single department of the FBI, the DOJ, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Attorney's Office, you name it, they're coming after us full force. So this book really just is fully comprehensive and covers everything January 6th, and even leads off into where I think the country's going and how we can stop it from hurtling over the edge into communism.
So let me ask you, Jake, as time goes by, do you think that your case has been weakened or strengthened now with the January 6th committee, all of those hearings, and as things, progress?
To any logical American, I think that they would agree that our case has been strengthened, because the January 6th Select Committee showed kind of this banana republic show trial, un-American, no defense, no other side of the story. And so it really painted a negative picture of these institutions. A Congress run by Democrats is no Congress at all. They're willing to go on these witch hunt trials after January 6th. So no real red-blooded American believes anything that's coming out of the January 6th Select Committee. They're ridiculous and obnoxious pushes to get Trump arrested and throw him in here with us. I mean, they have no merit, and I think the American people see right through them as a bunch of puppets for communist dictatorship that they're trying to turn our country into.
Jake, it might be hard for people to believe because you're actually calling out to us, but you are literally sitting in prison right now, correct?
Yes, I'm sitting in a federal maximum security penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. That's currently where I've been housed, my 11th different facility.
Jake Lang, we appreciate you finding a way to call in and share your story.
Thank you, Steve. God bless you. God bless Epic.
Thank you. A former state lawmaker who was charged in the January 6th Capitol breach plans to run for Congress. He'll challenge a Republican incumbent in West Virginia in 2024. Derek Evans served as a member of the West Virginia State House briefly from December 2020 to January 2021. That's before he was arrested for his involvement in the Capitol breach. Evans live-streamed the events of January 6th and entered the Capitol building briefly. He pled guilty to one charge of civil disorder last year and was sentenced to 3 months in jail. Evans announced his bid for Congress on the second anniversary of January 6th. He'll challenge his fellow Republican Congresswoman Carol Miller in West Virginia's 1st District. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.